Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the newest, latest right-wing conspiracy that they've been using to try and distract Americans from the fact that Donald Trump, the guy many of them voted for, the guy who represents their politics, is currently destroying the country. The right relies very heavily on social commentary to win people over. Don't you want to defeat the woke? Don't you want to stop the woke people from destroying your video games and your movies? Aren't they going too far by censoring language? But all these concerns are very first world. They're very privileged concerns. Like, feminism is ruining video games? You gotta be pretty well off to give a fuck about that. The fact is, Americans, since Trump took office, have been getting less and less and less well off. Which means even if they do not recognize Trump as the fault of the currently failing economy, the lack of privilege that most Americans are experiencing right now has put them into a situation where right-wing nonsense just doesn't hit as hard as it used to, right? Nonetheless, what we're about to take a look at has pulled immense amounts of viewership and support. Like, this has gone immensely viral. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of apolitical people are talking about it and covering it. What we're about to watch has been lauded as some of the best journalism of the 21st century. And after doing some cursory fact-checking on it, it's really not. Like, the fact that people are glazing what we're about to watch so hard demonstrates just how brainless most Americans are, that they'll see what we're about to see and they view it as ironclad, hardcore, amazing journalism. Allow me to explain. The state of Minnesota has a pretty substantial population of people from African countries, immigrants from African countries. Notably, Somalia is one of those demographics. And in Minnesota, there is a daycare that apparently specializes, or I guess is particularly known for housing the children of immigrant families. Now, there's been a lot of claims that certain state funding for these institutions meant to help immigrant families are being wasted and actually being embezzled by leadership in the state in order to enrich themselves, and that the money isn't actually going to helping these families. The right dropped the idea that these families are evil and harmful and dangerous, and now they're trying to claim that these child care centers and these state tax dollars are being embezzled. A lot of them have tried to claim that Tim Walz is behind it. There have been a lot of different angles they've come at this claim from. It's really weird, because for weeks now, I've watched them try to go after the state of Minnesota and Tim Walz with this claim of fraud, and the claims of fraud are different every time. Like, it's very clear that their end goal is to accuse the state of Minnesota of fraud by any means necessary, and that they have been trying to find working methods to pass off that allegation for weeks now. They've been A/B testing it, right? Like, you can watch in real time as the right A/B tests different narratives about the same thing, finds the most successful narrative, and then everyone agrees to stick to that narrative. And that's what they've been doing with this whole Minnesota fraud thing for a few weeks now. They've finally found what appears to be their winning narrative that they're sticking with. But make no mistake, up until just a few days ago, there were like 8 different stories on how supposedly Minnesota was doing fraud. This is just the one that's now stuck, and that everybody on the right is adopting and sticking to, because it had the most success. The right does this with a lot of their talking points, where they all say different shit for a couple days, and the winning talking point, everyone starts repeating. And so, this is the actual narrative that's managed to get through to people and get them convinced there is something weird happening. This is the famous video of Nick Shirley's investigation into daycare facilities supposedly embezzling upwards of $110 million in government funding. Let's see this top tier journalism that everybody is glazing so hard in the comments, that everyone's been talking about. Let's see. What is this fraud that gets exposed? We're not going to watch the whole thing, obviously, because it's 42 minutes long. We don't have all day, but let's watch as much of it as we can.
To ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Hold Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside this building.
Potentially the law.
From, where are the kids? Where are the kids in this pizza parlor? Where are the kids? I know you've got kids in here, too. There's no kids in this daycare, and I know it. I know you're there's no kids here. You can't hide it. I know there's not any children here. I love how much the conspiracy narrative has flipped in just a few years from, I know you're hiding kids, to, I know you're hiding it, there's no kids. Anyway, though, that aside, they've been going at this from different angles for a few weeks now, like I said. For those who don't know, this guy's level of journalistic integrity is on par with that of Tyler Oliveira, the guy with the AI thumbnails. This guy's buddies with Tyler Oliveira, so he does the hardcore, like, zoomer editing, makes it look really dramatic, has, like, a bunch of people with printouts to, like, go up to random people just doing their jobs and yell at them and scream demanding answers to questions they don't have answers to. Like, yeah, obviously these daycare workers are going to tell you to leave and not answer any of your questions when you show up, accusing them of working with the governor of the state in some kind of fraud thing. And you've got, like, cameras and a team there and stuff. Of course they're going to tell you to leave the daycare premises. Like, duh.
Largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud, it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia like the Al-Shabaab, and others enriched themselves all at the US taxpayers' expense. And in this video...
So for those who don't know, if you actually want to research the fraud issues in Minnesota, there were investigations and convictions over fraud. It's like specifically in like Somalian business owners engaging in fraud, but like they were individual crimes. Like individual people can apply for government funding and then embezzle that funding. And then they get investigated and go to prison for it, which is what happened. But the idea that there is a wide-ranging conspiracy that implicates the governor of Minnesota, no. That's where it goes out the window.
We will break down all of the fraud from start to finish, from going to the fraudulent businesses and confronting the people who are making millions of dollars from the government. And we will also be confronting the incompetent government leaders who let this fraud happen. And to make this happen, I met up with a man who's been doing his own investigation for years now, as he has seen the fraud firsthand. His name
What's his name?
David.
David what? David what? David, Minnesota Fraud Investigation. I want to know his full name. He just goes by David. What? Wait, even the news only calls him David. Wait, who is this guy? What? Shirley Associate in viral videos. That's the guy we're watching, Nick Shirley. Associate in viral video says he filed criminal complaint against Walz over daycare fraud allegations. So he literally is just David. This is my buddy David, who's been doing this deep investigation, guys. He doesn't even want to be... He doesn't want his name known, so you can't Google him and find out what he's done in the past. I guarantee you, if we have this guy's full name and we Google his full name, if we can find it, we're gonna find that he's been involved with some pretty shady stuff. I don't know. Is this another Hunter Biden's laptop situation? Yep. Yeah, I promise you, you will not be hearing about this in the slightest in a couple years.
Let's get into this and be prepared to be shocked.
How deep is this fraud here inside of Minnesota?
It is far worse than anybody can imagine. You heard...
I love the implication that this guy is like an investigator, part of some sort of agency or organization, but he's just a guy named David Literally, not even Fox News knows who this guy is or what his credentials are or why we should give a fuck what he has to say.
It's 7 to 10 billion and maybe more, and now the numbers have been revised and put out there publicly that they think it's more like 8 billion. How I got involved is that where my office is here in Minneapolis, I'm sort of in the heart of all of this fraud, and I would see these childcare centers. I said, well, there aren't any kids there. It's the middle of the day, and all I see are a couple of guys standing out front smoking, and then I'd go by another daycare.
So this is actually one of the core claims of their conspiracy. And yes, I have seen people debunk it in the most hilarious ways. One of their core complaints is that if you show up to one of these daycares at noon, you won't see any kids around. My lovely, intelligent, genius chatters, can anyone here guess why, if you show up to a daycare center at noon on a weekday, you might not see any kids around? Does anyone here have any clues or indications why there might not be any kids at a daycare at noon on a weekday? Because they'd be at school. Because daycare is typically where kids go after school, which tends to end around 2 to 4 p.m. So those kids would be at school having lunch or doing their middle of the day period. They wouldn't be at daycare at noon. Or like mind you, multiple of the videos that he goes on to show here, this is part of the story that I have seen debunked. People used an app that lets you see on an exact day, location, time of year, like you put in all the data and it shows you with Google Earth exactly where the sun would be casting shadows at a given time of day and what the shadows would look like in that region, in that exact place, at that exact time, in that exact season. And so even if they don't tell you what time of day it is when they record a video, if you know when the video was filmed, what time of year it was, and where, you can find out exactly to the moment what time of day it was, using the shadows in the video, using this, program. So a bunch of people plugged the place and the time into the program and figured out exactly what time of day it would have to be when he went to these daycare centers to film. 12:20 p.m. to 12:40 was the time it was when he went to most of these. That's why I used noon as the example, and he even says middle of the day. They literally went to these places at noon on weekdays when kids are at school and tried to claim it was sus that there were no kids there at the daycare centers, the after-school daycare centers.
And I'd see the same thing. I said, well, where do these kids play? And so I started to go online and look, and I said, this place is licensed for 80 children. They had...
These idiots are like, we'll catch the daycare kids at lunch. Well, here's the thing, though. This video has gotten unbelievable amounts of traction. It's somewhere in, the tens of millions of views. It's got nearly 1 million likes, nearly 250,000 shares, almost 50,000 comments, just on YouTube alone, or on Twitter alone, right? On YouTube, it's gone gangbusters viral, just like that one Tyler Oliveira video. These, nonsense Zoomer edit slop journalists that aren't real journalists, they're just making, clickbait viral nonsense. These people have such a grip on the youth. The fact that people see guys like this as such ironclad sources of news and information and journalism is a brain rot that needs to die. People see a dude walking around with a camera and they assume he must be a more trustworthy journalist than a massive corporation who can get sued for billions if they lie in court. Meanwhile, a guy can do a video like this, and effectively, he's kind of immune from lawsuit. Realistically, even if he got taken to court, he could argue the Alex Jones defense, but actually succeed, because the damages Alex Jones caused were so severe. That's the only reason Alex Jones was found liable. Had Alex Jones not actually caused any harm to the families, he would have gotten away with it, because he's a public figure. This guy will probably get away with it, unless any families or specific children get harassed or attacked because of this. He can claim a lot of this shit and get away with it in court if he gets sued. So he really has no, legal requirement to be truthful or honest in his coverage, like a big corporation like even Fox News would have to be. Fox News has lost a lot of money in court for lying. Yeah, they lie, but they go to court and lose shitloads of money over it. So that's the difference when it comes to someone like this and mainstream news. But the youth, Gen Z, they trust a guy like this so much more than they do CNN or Fox News.
0 children. Every time I went by there, they never had a single child there. Then I started to see all these transportation companies going around, and it was always a Somali driver. And I said, well, that's great. They're out there transportation, contributing, but they never had a passenger. Never, ever once. And I said, well, what is all this transportation? What are they doing? So then I found out that in Minnesota, they have something called non-emergency medical transportation.
Dang it, Zan. Lol, I was checking your channel page to see if you were going to go live today several times earlier, but wow, you've been live for 3 hours now? Yeah, YouTube hides my content from my subs. It's a known thing. I've been getting a lot of comments lately of like, Zan, YouTube never tells me when you upload. I have to manually check your channel. And it's like, yeah, YouTube does that.
So this is going to the dentist's office, therapy, whatever it might be. And I said, well, how many of these companies are there? And the research came back that there are 1,020 of them, and more than 800 of them are Somali-owned. Nobody from...
All right, I don't really care about what David has to say. I want to get to the juice of the video. Yeah, here we go. Now we're actually at the learning centers. Now you can already tell just by looking. You don't even need to plug this into a thing, but if you've been to anywhere north in the continental United States during the winter, you can tell that this is not any time before or after noon in the day. Because when 1 p.m. hits, it starts getting dark. And this is like 11 a.m. during the summer type sunlight. You know what I mean? But people plugged in directly a shadow calculator, because you can literally look at any object and calculate the shadow size compared to its actual size and figure out by how long the shadows are being cast in which direction, what time of day it is. And people determine that this is during school hours. Every bit of footage that we see of these daycares with no kids there is very blatantly during school hours. Okay, so the video's just frozen and not playing. Good work, Twitter. This is a platform that people pay for, by the way.
Here we go. All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center. All the windows are blacked out. Let's see if anybody is here.
Listen,
this door is locked.
I don't even live as far north as Minnesota. I live in Washington. It's 5 p.m. right now, and it's fully pitch black outside. It's been dark out since 3. In Minnesota, if it was 2 p.m. or later, it would be nighttime outside. It would be nighttime if this was during school, like after school hours in Minnesota during the winter.
This facility is licensed for 40 children. 0 children. I've come by this place 100 times. I've never seen a child here, ever.
This old man named David, who's got he refuses to tell anybody his last name. For who knows what reason. Maybe if we Google him, we'll find out he's on some registries, on some lists. Is telling us that he goes to these daycares every day to look and see the children. And never finds it. Like,
the only thing I've ever seen is someone standing outside smoking.
What's crazy about this is that last daycare center is that green building right there. And the other daycare center right now is right here. These buildings should be operating as they're receiving literally millions of dollars. I knocked on the door, and to my surprise, somebody actually answered the door. Hello? Can we speak? I would like to check a child in the daycare. Why? Can I speak to a manager? Where can I get paperwork to?
At first they're like, yeah, you can talk. And he says, I would like to check a child in the daycare. And they reply, why? Because checking a child into daycare is bringing your child in to be at daycare. They're not open, and school is in, mind you. Like, obviously, if you're a daycare worker and a guy shows up who looks like he's 20, shows up at, like, 11 a.m. on a school day and says, I'm here to drop off my kid through the door as the place is closed, you'd be like, why? Like, of course you would be.
File for my son. I wanted to put my son Joey in daycare.
And after a few questions, the lady went silent.
Looks like little Joey Shirley ain't going to daycare here. And now where are we going?
Now we're going to Sweet Angel Child Care.
We're in the middle of a strip mall here inside of this neighborhood.
In fiscal year 2025, this facility, which has its license for 74 kids, was paid $1.26 million in tax money. And there are no kids, and all the facilities are the same way, all of them.
Let's see if anyone opens.
Yeah, let's.
Like, what's being preyed upon by fake journalists like this guy so readily here is the fact that the majority of Gen Z, who are 99% of the audience that consumes Tyler Oliveira content, this guy's content, they have very little lived experience, right? Like, they haven't gone out into the world or existed as adults in the real world for that long. And when you haven't lived in the real world as an adult for that long, there are a lot of things that aren't just common sense to you that will be as you get older. One of the biggest things is just knowing enough, being old enough to know, wait a second, of course, this is like 11 a.m. Why would there be kids at daycare at 11 a.m.? Like, once you start to get towards parent age, that's an obvious contradiction in the logic of this narrative that they're pushing. If you're old enough to have had kids or to be friends with parents, you're just immediately like, wait a second, school would be in at this time of day. You know what I mean? But if you're a teenager or a young 20-something, you're not even thinking about stuff like that. None of that even comes to mind. You know what also doesn't come to mind? The fact that if hundreds of millions of dollars are being embezzled of state revenue, mind you, not just income, it'd be one thing if hundreds of millions of dollars in income was being made by a company and not being reported to the IRS or being laundered in some way, though I don't know how they'd be laundering the money in this case, because where's their business? Where's their front? That aside, though, if you are embezzling hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding for decades, the federal government of one administration or another would have figured it out. We're talking the Clintons, we're talking about the Bushes, we're talking about the Obamas, the Bidens, or the Trumps. One of those administrations would have figured out where those hundreds of millions of dollars in tax funding is going, and it would have been put a stop to a long time ago. It would have been put a stop to a long time ago. Any institution receiving federal funding, hell, any institution not receiving federal funding, if you sell food to people, you're getting bi-yearly federal investigations. In the case of making sure you're doing fair practice. Health inspections happen twice a year at every restaurant in America, paid for by the state. Okay, if you think that daycares being funded by U.S. tax dollars are not getting investigated regularly as part of the standard operating procedure, then you don't know how the world works. You have like no fundamental lived experience or knowledge of the world. And that's kind of what I expect from most of the audience of this type of content. Like, the kids that watch this shit and take it seriously, they haven't lived long enough to realize, wait a second, hundreds of millions of dollars of US federal funding vanishing over the course of decades over several different politically dissonant administrations. People would have figured this out a long time ago if it was happening. Yeah, like they don't have that kind of common sense, which is ironic because the right loves to talk about how much they love common sense.
Once again, I try to find a spot for my son Joey, and they would not open the door.
I want to put my son Joey in daycare. Cuz I need a spot to put my son Joey.
Yes.
Is this your daycare center?
No, I work there. What's happened?
I just want to put a child in daycare, but all the daycare centers seem to be closed. No one's opening.
Okay, just body language alone, who here has already picked up on the situation? Like, if you're a teenager watching this, I'm sure this is like the most groundbreaking journalism in the world to you. But who here has already picked up, if you're like an adult, normal human being with a life who goes to work every day, who's already picked up on what's going on here? He shows up, he's like, what's going on? Because some shit's going down outside his work. He sees a 20-year-old, an old man with his arms crossed, looking all grumpy with pieces of paper. Another guy who's wearing a full face mask with his arms crossed like he's a bodyguard. Like, look at the guy on the right. Who knows how many people behind the camera, and a cameraman holding what is no doubt a $6,000 clunky top-tier, top-range video camera with the light for recording blinking. And he turns and he looks at the camera and he's like, what the fuck's going on here? He's coming in for work, he's got his AirPods in, he sees a bunch of people starting a scene outside of his work. He sees the camera and he's like, oh. So I would not be surprised if immediately he's about to get a lot more reserved and a lot less friendly now that he's kind of taken in the scene and realized these guys are not up to anything normal. Mind you, considering these are daycares, I wouldn't... Wait, they literally have security... Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're being looked at through security cameras as they're standing out there by the staff, because it's a daycare. Of course, they'd have a shitload of security stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if these guys, with no kid with them, with a guy in a full mask and a camera crew showing up at their door, if they're just immediately like, we're not... No. But don't talk to them.
The doors.
You work here?
I was, yeah. What's happened?
Where are the kids?
Yeah?
It says it's licensed for 74 children. Right here, state of Minnesota. Where are the kids? They got paid $1.26 million in fiscal year 2025. It says they have a capacity for 74 children.
When?
Where are the kids? Right here. State of Minnesota website. You work here and you don't know?
I don't know. I was there before. I don't know what's going on.
Were there any kids
There I
when you
am.
worked here?
He's there. Kids there. What's
How
happened?
many?
I don't know. I
You don't know?
Yeah.
You worked here. Okay, well then you're not of any help.
Can I put my son in a daycare here?
Who is this guy? Who is this David guy?
No, I don't know.
Can I speak to someone?
No, I don't know.
No? Yeah, I would like to see if I can put my son...
It's very clear that, like, these are people who aren't super great at English, so the amount that they're even understanding of what he's saying, for starters, is probably very limited. But on top of that, all they're seeing right now is a guy questioning them outside of a daycare with a camera crew, and a guy in a full, like, ski mask getup, right? And a dude who's, like, insultingly questioning them with his arms crossed, looking all grumpy, an old white guy. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not surprised that these people are unwilling to speak to them. This is some hack D-level journalism. Now, F-level maybe? You gotta understand how compelling this is to kids, though, guys. Like, if you're a teenager or a young 20-something with very little real-life experience, this is just groundbreaking journalism to you. Because real journalism is boring if you're a young adult or a teenager. It's too boring to even be approachable. This is fake journalism, but the reason it's approachable is the way it's presented. Like, the fact that you can just make up any crazy story and frame anything as evidence for your story to a gullible youth audience, it's an advantage that these grifters have that I don't know how we fight it. I don't. Like, a large part of why I'm covering this is to, like, bring this story to the attention of my more progressive audience and kind of see how you guys respond, because I don't know how we counter extremely viral fake journalism content that has absurd levels of reach and is being given immense amounts of trust and shareability. I saw that a really big streamer, what's his name? I forget what his name is. Atriok, I think his name is, like a really big gaming streamer, was covering this. And he's like a normie gaming streamer who is like reacting to it and popularizing it to his audience. So like, this is viral video stuff. Like, this is the kind of stuff that like non-political like streamers and content creators are reacting to, because this is like the viral video of the month. You know, flavor of the month viral video that every reactor is watching. So, I don't know. Zan, as a teenager, I promise we are not all this dumb. Many teens refuse to read, though, and they would def fall for it. Yeah, I mean, if you're watching me, you're an outlier, okay? I have way more people watching me in their 50s than I do in their teens. At least according to YouTube stats. And I'm inclined to believe it, honestly. Like, I do not see a lot of young people in my audience. They tend to be older. And I think that speaks volumes, is the fact that young people do not generally find the type of politics, of actual progressive politics and policy, all that interesting. Like, at least not until they've come across the realization that right-wing social commentary is nonsense. Then they might get an interest in some left-wing counter perspective, but outside of that, like, if you're just a random apolitical teen, you have no interest in progressive politics at all. None. This, on the other hand, couches right-wing propaganda in an air of, like, interesting, entertaining, dangerous even on-the-grounds journalism. Because, like, he's claiming that these are criminal organizations. For all you know, most people are going into this video thinking that at some point they're going to get their lives threatened. Which doesn't happen, but people go into it thinking that's the kind of thing that could happen. Notably, if you're wondering how brain-rotted this nonsense is, another person who's joined in on the
How was
grift
life here in Minneapolis?
is none other than Tyler Oliveira. Like, this guy who went viral for the Indian Poop Festival thing, which, if you're wondering about how truthful this guy's reporting is, the Indian Poop Festival thing is not an Indian festival. It is a specific town's festival. He also refers to it as Diwali celebration. It is not a Diwali celebration. It's not even on the same day. So, literally all of the parts of his reporting that actually matter and influence people's opinions are lies. But insofar as what he shows in the video, like the actual footage is real, as in it's not AI generated, but even the thumbnails are fake. Like, these are not real. Like, these are either heavily photoshopped or AI generated thumbnails. These are not real. Like, what? But this is the shit. This is the shit that we're up against right now. Inside Minneapolis's Somali invasion. Let's get a look at this one.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, ya Allah.
This is Little Mogadishu, Minneapolis, the unofficial capital of the 100,000 plus Somalis that have made Minnesota their home, fleeing the war-torn Somalia since the 90s, and attracted by Minnesota's refugee programs, job opportunities, a generous welfare system, pre-existing Somali community, and the welcoming, hospitable Minnesotan spirit. But not everyone wants
Minnesota.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars. Their country stinks.
The president says he doesn't want any Somalis living in the U.S. after a few dozen were implicated in a COVID relief fraud case.
I got nothing to do personally.
Yeah, if there was any actual, like, severe, widespread state leader-run fraud going on, then Donald Trump would have had his DOJ do something about it already. The fact that the big expose of all this is YouTube videos saying, well, I don't know, guys, seems pretty sus, right? While the leader of the country does nothing real about it is really funny. Because you'd think if there was anything actually here, Donald Trump would order the DOJ to do a full, investigation. You know, the DOJ oversees the FBI, okay? Like, bro has full power to just demand the highest federal offices investigate this, but there's already an investigation of everyone who actually is complicit in any kind of fraud going on, and it's not anywhere near as big a deal as they want you to believe it is. But when it comes to just talking about it, they'll talk about how big of a deal it is, but when it comes to actually pulling the trigger on any real money getting spent to investigate this and convict on this issue, there's no one's doing anything about it, not even Trump.
I've been working all my life hard.
That's the biggest tell. That's the biggest tell that this fraud narrative isn't real. is that not even Donald Trump is doing anything about it. Like, outside of words and YouTube videos and culture war nonsense, like stuff that goes viral online, nothing legal is being done about this. Even with Trump running everything and Republicans running everything, nothing is actually being done or will be done about this because there isn't actually anything here. This is a made-up story. Well, not a completely made-up story. An insanely overblown story being weaponized for political wins. They don't actually want to do anything about the real fraud being done, nor do they actually want to raise awareness about the real fraud being done. Because the fraud is very singular instances of individual crimes that have been and are being investigated and litigated. And have been for a long time. But yeah, if you embezzle government funding, you're going to get investigated and then you're going to go to prison. It's happened a lot.
And beyond $6.5 billion just in the time period where Tim Walz has taken office. 78 people have been charged at this point. 77 of them are Somali.
With an estimated $1 billion+ stolen from welfare programs designed to feed the hungry, housing stabilization.
Did you guys know that in this welfare program meant to provide federal funding to Somali business owners, 77 of them have been Somali that are found guilty of embezzling? But who is the non-Somali person embezzling funds meant for Somali business owners, by the way? Who is that? What the fuck is this rightoid brain rot AI slop? Unfortunately, extremely popular content.
And treat autistic kids. Is this the result of a few evil fraudsters who happen to mostly be Somali? Or is it the work of the city and state's leadership bending the knee to
It has to be a conspiracy. It's the only explanation that makes sense.
An increasingly growing community of tribally loyal refugees that have refused to assimilate, have worked together as a community to exploit generous welfare programs, and have not been held accountable due to the fear of spineless politicians being called racist and potentially losing the votes of the Somali community they know they'll need to get reelected.
There you go, guys. There you go. So, yeah, it's a narrative they've been going at. This is a video from 3 weeks ago. You've got posts and articles about it going back months now, but for about 2 months, they've been really A/B testing this narrative. They've been trying to find the most successful way they can frame this lie to get it to go viral. And they've been testing it across the internet for weeks now, and they finally found the working, method with Tyler Oliveira's video, and now they're all repeating it. So this Tyler Oliveira video is from a couple weeks ago. The video we just watched came out a couple days ago. You're about to see so many more right-wing faux journalists picking up this story and repeating the exact same narrative from that Tyler Oliveira video and from the Nick Shirley video. Because they've been testing many different ways of covering this and framing this, and now they found the working one. I want you to know this going forward when it comes to any right-wing talking point. Keep an eye out for a new thing the right starts to say. If there's some new story they start to push around, pay real close attention to what they say, how they frame it, and then watch as that morphs over the course of the next couple weeks until the story finally goes viral, until the narrative finally goes viral. And then I want you to compare the viral version of the narrative to the original version you first heard. I promise you, you will notice where it's been tweaked deliberately to be more virality friendly. The right as a movement does this. They test narratives, find the working one, and then they all run it. This happens in other areas too, by the way, and drama, commentary, and gossips, circles online, like in the drama YouTube sphere. You've probably seen it happen where a bunch of different drama YouTubers will run a story about one YouTuber and their narratives are all kind of different, but then whichever narrative goes the most viral, everybody starts repeating and it becomes the truth. It's that same principle. It's like an A/B testing of narratives. Find what people are most willing to believe, and then that's what everyone sticks to who wants to push a narrative about that thing. So, I guess that's what we have to learn, how to start contradicting, how to start calling out. How do you call out the active running of an A/B test on the population by a political group to find what is most believable by the broader public, identify exactly when they found that version of the story they want to push, and then start pushing it. Like, how do you recognize it in real time, call it out, and, God, even prevent them from being able to make viral some nonsense story they're trying to push? Debate them? Well, I love debate. Don't get me wrong, I love debating conservatives, but they refuse to debate now. Notice how in the last couple years, like in politics in general, on left and right, debate is now seen as like cringe. You'll notice that, right? Like debunking and debating is now cringe, whether you're left or right. Used to be if you were a right-winger, you were super pro-debate. You had to defend all your ideas with debate. The left started debating right-wingers and destroying them, so now, not only do you have the debate does nothing to change people's minds type on the left, you've also got the right-wingers who now try to claim debate is pointless, because they know they're way better off just signaling to their echo chamber and never actually trying to front by agreeing to a debate with someone who has different ideas and risking getting owned. Anyway. If you enjoyed this segment, if you found what I had to say, my commentary and whatnot enjoyable, engaging, entertaining, leave a like and a comment down below. And comment, no fraud. If you want to signal to me you watched all the way to the end, that'll be the code word for that. It'll also boost the video and the algorithm a lot when you like and comment, so I appreciate it. Subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future, and don't forget to ring that bell icon. On top of that, consider joining my fan Discord through the link down below in the description if you haven't already. Regardless of how you support the channel, though, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, and as always, have a good one, my friends.